Look into the deep-sea legends floating around online, and you'll find the same persistent rumors. Some claim the Megalodon never truly left, that it's simply hiding in the lightless canyons of the Mariana Trench or waiting in a deep freeze beneath the polar ice. Biological reality makes that impossible. Deep-sea exploration with submersibles like this one has mapped the extreme conditions of the abyssal zone. For a 60-ton warm-water predator, the crushing pressure and near-freezing temperatures would be fatal long before it could find enough food to sustain itself. The Megalodon is extinct, leaving only fossilized evidence of its reign. But these remains establish a scale that is difficult to process compared to any predator alive today. When you compare silhouettes, a human or even a modern great white becomes a speck. The Megalodon reached 18 meters in length and carried a bite force of 40,000 pounds per square inch, a pressure capable of shattering the ribcage of a whale. This creates a biological puzzle. A creature with no natural predators and the ultimate physical weaponry should be invincible. Yet the Megalodon's exit from the fossil record was no accident. It took a specific sequence of geological and biological shifts to end its reign. 5 million years ago, the planet's oceans were a series of interconnected tropical corridors. The water was consistently warm, supporting a vast global web of life that allowed the Megalodon to roam freely. That circulation was broken when tectonic activity forced the Americas together, creating the Isthmus of Panama. As the land bridge rose, it physically blocked the deep ocean currents that had spent millions of years distributing heat around the equator. With the global thermostat broken, ocean temperatures dropped. Ice ages began to take hold at the poles, and the habitable zone for warm water species began to contract toward the center of the planet. This cooling hit the Megalodon at its most vulnerable point. Adult sharks relied on shallow, warm-water coastal nurseries for their pups. As the ice crept in, these vital environments either froze or became too cold for the next generation to survive. Climate change didn't need to kill the adults to end the species. By destroying the nurseries, it ensured the population would simply stop being replaced. Even as the nurseries vanished, the surviving adults faced a caloric crisis. A 60-ton body comes with an unavoidable metabolic tax. To keep its organs functioning, a single Megalodon had to consume over a ton of meat every day. Their primary prey, prehistoric baleen whales, survived the cooling oceans through a series of evolutionary adaptations. They grew larger and developed thick layers of insulating blubber to trap their body heat. These whales used their new insulation to migrate away from the equator. They moved toward the poles, following the explosion of nutrients found in freezing, high-latitude waters. The Megalodon reached a hard biological limit. As warm water specialists, their cardiovascular systems failed in near-freezing water. They were physically unable to follow their food into the polar regions. Stranded in a warm, empty ocean, the most successful hunter on the planet was left with nothing to hunt. As the giant sharks weakened, the shrinking warm zones became crowded with new, more efficient predators. This massive influx included the direct ancestors of the modern great white shark. They were joined by early ancestors of the orca. These mammals brought a new strategy to the sea, pack hunting and complex communication, that allowed them to tackle prey with precision rather than just size. These smaller hunters required a fraction of the calories needed by a Megalodon. When the remaining prey appeared in the warm zones, these agile competitors could outmaneuver the starving giants and take what little food was left. There was no final battle to mark the end of the reign. Instead, isolated and unable to compete for dwindling resources, the Megalodon quietly exited the evolutionary stage. Habitat loss, the migration of its food, and the rise of leaner, smarter competitors worked together to dismantle the species from every angle. The removal of the ocean's apex terror changed the evolutionary stakes for the survivors. Without the constant threat of a 60-ton predator, whales were finally able to grow into the peaceful giants we see in our oceans today. The Megalodon's end reveals the risk of narrow biological trade-offs. The massive size and high temperature requirements that once made it a king also made it vulnerable to even slight shifts in the global thermostat. We are currently witnessing another shift in ocean temperatures and nutrient cycles. For many marine species, the geography of survival is moving once again. The prehistoric climate shifts that isolated the Megalodon reflect the current disruption of our marine ecosystems. In both eras, specialized giants find themselves on the wrong side of a rapidly changing border. The ocean has already demonstrated that even the most dominant creatures can be erased by a change in the environment. The question is whether the giants of our era will adapt in time, or if they are following the Megalodon into the fossil record.